Good evening. I call to order the Lake Havasu City Council regular meeting on Tuesday, January 25th, 2022 at 6 p.m. We'll now have an invocation from Dr. David Bybee from the Christ Chapel, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance from the Closed Closet.
As always, it's an honor to be here. Let's go ahead and pray. Gracious God and everlasting Father, we come before you this evening in the precious name of Jesus, who is the sustainer and creator of life. May we honor you with our actions and words. We intercede in prayer for our beautiful city of Lake Havasu, as we are surrounded with desert beauty and a gorgeous lake. May the decisions this evening enhance that beauty. As we are a destination for enjoyment, may we also be a destination for spiritual inspiration. Guide the events of this evening in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for inviting me. And let's say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And welcome, Christine. If you want to share a little bit about your organization.
Thank you so much. Havasu Hope, Help Our People Excel, is an offshoot of the nonprofit The Closed Closet. The Closed Closet started about 10 years ago in 10 6x10 storage units that were donated for us to get started. We've been in and out of buildings for the last 10 years, and last March, we were graciously given a building. I could cry. And it's a beautiful 3,500 square foot building, and we're under remodel right now. But Havasu Hope, we are located at 1968 Mesquite Avenue. Our building is currently under a major renovation, and our wish for its completion soon as our plans for its future are already in progress. We need to build this structure for a resource center. Our mission is to help anyone in need of clothing, food, or other necessities, always without charge. We help find resources in the community that we may need in judgment-free atmosphere. This includes the underprivileged, the homeless, foster children and their foster families, children are bullied in schools, veterans, senior citizens, and victims of domestic violence. It will be a place of hope to anyone going through a situation before they spiral down into homelessness. In this endeavor, we work with our schools, churches, and other nonprofits to provide whatever is needed. We are not here to replace the resources already in place. We are here to guide people to those resources. We have many local families that are working 2 jobs and barely able to pay their bills. And now with the housing, we are seeing more and more homeless people living in their cars with their families. We just had 4 come this week. It's really sad. We have, when they apply for a new job, they may require clothes for interview, and when hired, they need clothes for the new position. If someone has left an abusive situation, kids outgrow their clothes, or if a school nurse sees that a student needs a winter coat, they may contact us. The Closed Closet can supply all of these needs. It will soon be open in almost 1/3 of the new building. It is the foundation of Havasu Hope, and it'll always be our primary focus. In the front of the new space will be a small store of hope and inspirational items, and we're hoping that we'll keep our Closed Closet running in the back in the building. And it's gonna be words of hope and wisdom to help people with their troubles. United Way is partnering with Havasu Hope. They'll be connecting us to a resource to provide computers so that high school dropouts can receive high school diploma. We're not trying to replace any school system, but there are some students that just can't do school. So we are hoping that we're going to have a computer that they just do 1 class at a time. So all their history, all their math, all their 1 section, and we're hoping to work in the community and get apprenticeship programs with these students so they can learn a job trade, because a lot of these students don't have the home life. They don't understand things. They don't They just don't have common sense in a lot of stuff. So we're hoping to bring apprenticeship programs so these kids will have a hope in life so they don't end up on the streets. So they'll learn a trade. We already got a carburetor guy that is willing to take on a student to learn how to redo carburetors. So that's what we're trying to do. We're also, River Cities United Way is also providing an official virtual connection with the local governments and agencies and resources. So what we're trying to do is when people are in need, come to the Havasu Hope building so we can go ahead and find a resource that they may need. We do that by virtually, by the computer, or we're going to have an actual room also where we're hoping to invite some of these services, like hopefully down the road, Social Security Administration and some of the other services, and work out of that room maybe once a week or once a month for people that can come and set up appointments and stuff. So we want to be a conduit for connecting individuals to the valuable resources that are available in our whole town and our county. We're going to create brochures with phone numbers with bullet points on there. So when someone just got out of a domestic violence, or somebody just got their grandchild, or somebody just is going through a tragedy, because when you're going through tragedies, you don't know what the next step is. Your head is spinning. So if we create these brochures that can help people, you can do this, 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 and contact this person, and then they can keep their head on and hopefully get out of that spiral and go on with their lives. We have a lot of grandmas that come in, grandparents that come in with their grandkids because mom and dad got on drugs. It's really a sad situation, and we're having a lot of that. So we're hoping to help with that area. I had one grandma that came in, a couple of years ago, and she got custody of her grandson. She wanted to keep and raise her grandson, but she was working somewhere where she wasn't making enough money to be able to provide for that grandson. So what we did was we got her hooked up with Toys for Tots, because it was right at Christmas time, so the child could have Christmas presents. And then we hooked them up with Arizona at work. Well, this grandma went to school, got her CNA license, is able to care for this grandchild because she makes enough money now. But it wasn't for Arizona Workforce, she wouldn't have that possible, and we made that connection, and that's what we've always done. We've done more than just handing out clothes. We've always tried to connect, and this building is going to able to help us connect better and have the resources there. In December alone, we helped 67 men, 32 women, and 17 children in December. With their needs, with clothes, with food packets. We're not a food bank, but what we do is hand out food snacks to help tide them over in between their meals at the food bank and stuff. And then we had a care fair last Saturday, which we gave away free haircuts. We gave away free food, as in hot meal. We gave clothes away, and it was wonderful. We helped 63 people on a Saturday from 8:30 till 1:30. But this resource center we're hoping to just help with everybody in the county, everybody in the community with resources.
Yeah,
we're not trying to recreate, we're just trying to put us all together.
Yeah, thank you, Christine, for being here, and thank you for your passion and your leadership in this area. And thank you for sharing the story of the clothes closet. Item 4 is our roll call. Ms. Davis, if you'd please call the roll.
Council members: Nancy Campbell. Here. David Lane.
Here.
Michelle Lynn.
Here.
Cameron Moses.
Here.
Jenny Koch.
Here.
Vice Mayor Jim Dolan.
Present.
Mayor Kel Sheehy.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is our call to the public. This is an opportunity where citizens have to address the city council with matters within the jurisdiction of Lake Havasu City. Your comments are limited to 3 minutes. There is a light indicator box next to Ms. Davis. Green means you have 3 minutes. Yellow means you have 1 minute remaining. And red means that the 3 minutes is up. Again, it's important that if you want to speak on an item that's on the public hearing, wait till that time. We can have a two-way conversation. Otherwise, just during the call to the public, we'll listen intently to the comments that you may have. have, but you do need to keep them within the jurisdiction of Lake Havasu City. That'd be something that this council or elected body has the ability to do something about with code or whatnot. It's also imperative that you address the city council. This is directly to the city council during call to the public. Last meeting we had citizens that were addressing the city council. Others didn't like that point of view and they were booing or doing those types of things. That's not decorum. If we can't keep decorum during the call to the public, we will just close the public hearing and move on to our public hearings of the evening. You don't have to sign up to speak at call to the public, but we did have several that did. So we'll start in that order and then we'll open it up to anyone else. So we'll start with Mr. Jay Cook.
Thank you, Mayor Sheehy, members, council members, staff. My name is Jay Cook. I'm with the Arizona Game and Fish Department, and I wanted to come this evening and cordially invite you all to our commission meeting coming up on February 11th here in Lake Havasu City. And so I can relay those details to the is Kelly Williams here.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she's on Zoom. We'll see her in a few minutes.
Okay.
Or Ms. Davis can help us as well.
Well, yeah, I'll communicate the details to her for that, and just an opportunity to meet our commission or our leadership. We do have a long history with the Lake Havasu City, especially the police department and a lot of the watercraft work and fisheries that goes along here in the lake. And again, I also would like to come back at a later date and maybe talk about more opportunities that we can partner with the city on.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Yes. Next speaker would be Ms. Karen Vanderjack. Good evening and welcome.
Evening. Karen Vanderjack, 45-year resident of Lake Havasu City. Tonight I'm going to go back into my role as a teacher. I was awarded the title of Arizona Teacher of the Year in 2015 on my ability to communicate to students. So hopefully during 3 minutes, I can either remind you of your responsibilities to this community, or maybe you'll learn something new. First of all, this is a chart taken from your handbook, the Councilman's Handbook. And you'll notice that at the very top, who is the very top? The citizens of Lake Havasu City. We are over the mayor and the council. Just a good reminder. And when we came before you last time, Councilman Lane interrupted one of our citizens, and he said it didn't apply. However, he didn't ask the citizen, how is this going to tie in? He just assumed. So I just wanted to point that out. On page 4 of your handbook, it quotes, "You are now a city official and you're bound by ethical standards, state laws, and city regulations. You may work closely with the city staff, policymakers, citizens, and other government representatives, lobbyists, and grassroots organizations." I just want to remind you that we do come here often and we are a grassroots organization. And sometimes we feel like we're an annoying flea on the wall. So we just want to remind you of that. Page 6, the board actions will be based on staff report, public input, and group discussion. Now, last year, serious decisions were made, such as a mass proclamation or shutting down businesses. Remember, proclamations are not laws. Anything that goes against the Constitution of the United States or laws in record do not supersede the law. For example, an official such as a mayor or governor can give a proclamation that all people wear blue on Monday to be enslaved if they don't. The mandate or the proclamation is illegal and it's absurd and against the Constitution. In addition to the Bill of Rights and other amendments, the 13th Amendment and the Emancipation Proclamation supersedes the proclamations that are enslaving all of us. Also, on page 22, I quote, "Act lawfully, as well as within the spirit of the law, including those laws that apply directly to your role as a board member. Avoid making recommendations or expressing personal views that have not been approved by a majority of the members of the board you represent without clearly indicating that you are speaking as a private citizen." Vice Mayor Dolan, when you throw out your personal opinions at a meeting and you say, "I don't agree with that resolution, I only represent 57,000 people," that's giving your opinion. So thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mr. Ben Peterson.
Greetings, council members. Ben Peterson, Maracaibo Drive, Lake Havasu City. What I want to speak about this evening pertains to the health and safety of Lake Havasu residents. There's medical malpractice happening within our city limits that need to be addressed immediately. I went to Walgreens today to research COVID injections for a list of possible side effects. What I got was this insert, this flyer, which is an improvement over the blank sheet that they were providing before. And it lists the side effects as severe allergic reactions, myocarditis, pericarditis, and fainting in association with the vaccine. But in an FDA slide from 2020, it lists preliminary VAERS special interest side effects and adverse reactions as death, adverse pregnancy outcomes, GBS, multiple sclerosis, CIDP.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to have to interrupt again, as I did last meeting. The city is not requiring vaccines. We don't manufacture vaccines. We don't require vaccines. Anything that has to do with vaccines is not under the purview of this city council. And call to the public is only for items that are under the purview of the city council. So I would request, Mr. Mayor, that he move on to the next subject. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have additional comments that are in the purview of Lake Havasu City?
It's within medical laws to provide adequate, information. And what this is doing is this is whitewashing the dangers to our citizens, the medical dangers to our citizens. And I'm trying to make you aware of that. And at some point, you're going to be held personally liable. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help educate you because you don't seem to want to educate yourselves.
If I may, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Whether or not people get vaccines or do not get vaccines has nothing to do with this council. That is their personal opinion on what they do or do not want to do and something for them to discuss with their doctor. It is not under our purview. And we don't mandate people to do it, and we don't mandate people not to do it. We don't have any jurisdiction over vaccines at all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You grant business licenses to businesses that are participating in medical malpractice.
Yes,
that is my point.
Yeah. So just connect those dots quickly and
yeah, that is my point. I mean, medical malpractice is happening. You granted a business license to a business that's, engaged in malpractice, and I would just like it as a citizen corrected. I'd like it corrected quickly, and there is liability here, and I think that'll become apparent, over time. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. The next speaker is Mr. Stephen Tuminello.
My name is Stephen Tuminello. I'm a resident of Lake Havasu City, Arizona. I was in California on January 11th when the last city council meeting was held, and I watched the recorded meeting the next morning. I was shocked as David Lane tried to restrict Ben Peterson's speech. I couldn't believe it. What I'm going to discuss tonight absolutely is in the jurisdiction of the Lake Havasu City Council and under its control, and I expect to exercise my First Amendment rights. On January 5th, I woke up with a severe sinus cold that I usually refer to as sinusitis. In today's world, it would probably be called COVIDitis, since everything is now labeled COVID. My energy level was extremely low, and if I had been an uninformed person, I probably would have gone to the doctor, since we are bombarded 24 hours, 7 days a week with COVID propaganda around our city. The doctor would have most likely wanted to run a PCR COVID test that has a 99% inaccuracy with false positives. They would ram graphene oxide up my nasal passage to my pineal gland to make sure I really got COVID, whatever COVID is, since it's a virus that has never been isolated. We don't even know if there's anything such as COVID. Then the doctor most likely would have encouraged me to go to the hospital where CDC protocol is followed, like they tried to use on Karen Vanderjagt recently. The CDC protocol is putting you on remdesivir, which destroys your kidneys and liver, and then they put you on a ventilator and you die, and the hospital gets up to $100,000 or more
Mr.
for a
Tuminello,
COVID death.
I think we covered it earlier. It has to be within the jurisdiction of Lake Havasu.
I'm leading
to draw
up to
that conclusion for.
So this is basically the baby boomer remover protocol. Fortunately for me, I am an informed citizen. I opted to use the frontline doctors in the Havasu Patriots protocol. I started the hydroxychloroquine and the Z-Pack, which cost less than $50. 2 days later, I was full of energy and able to make an extremely important trip to San Diego to represent the Constitutional Sheriff's Association at a Freedom Revival rally.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask again, I don't think this has anything to do. Excuse me, sir.
In attendance.
This has
Please
nothing
don't
to do-
interrupt me. Don't interrupt me.
This has nothing to do with city.
Yes, it
business.
does. I'm leading up to it.
Yeah, so please.
The most
quickly
powerful
consider.
display at this patriotic event was the display at the entrance stating that the jab has killed more kids.
Mr. Mayor, this still has
than
nothing to do with
COVID,
city
okay?
business.
You see this?
Yeah.
You see this? Killed more kids than COVID.
We're,
Like I
we're
said,
going to go ahead
okay.
and close the public
You
hearing. All right,
have-
excuse me, the call
You
to the
have
public.
businesses here that are forcing masks or vaccines. You can restrict and pull their business
Yeah.
license. Thank you very much.
Absolutely disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah, I might have failed to mention, this is not open mic night. This is a public meeting of the Lake Havasu City Council to conduct the people's business. So please stay on track so that we can understand and get that work done. So the next speaker, James Manassi.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have two questions. Under the consent agenda, you have an item to call an executive session for February the 8th. I was just wondering what the general topic of that would be. And then my second comment would be that I would encourage you all to get the staff and any other sources that you can find that could provide more money for street maintenance. And as I was reading Mr. Zog's story this morning about the cutback in the volume that can be done, and it's basically cutting the program in half. And waiting 25 years to get a street chip sealed is way beyond the normal expectation of the lifespan of that type of surfacing. And then also I was wondering if you've looked into micro seal or seal coating, which could be done more often because it's a little bit less expensive and so you could cover more. And that, of course, should follow crack sealing. There are some streets, I happen to drive on North Palo Verde, north of Lake Havasu Avenue almost every day, and that is almost paved with seal coating, and it's holding up pretty good. So I would just encourage you, looking to next year's budget, to go ahead and dig out some more sources, find some more money trees, so that we can have better streets on which to drive. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Would anyone else like to address this? Yeah, please just make your way to the podium and state your name for the record.
Good evening, everybody. Glad to see everybody here. Glad to see you guys out here. Several months ago, Cal, I brought to your attention the opportunity to have a dental health fair here in town. The date is set for September 7th and 8th. We're going to be asking for donations from the community. It's $35,000 to bring it. Anybody in Havasu can get free dental, free eye, free checkups, their feet checked out. At this event, it's going to be at the Aquatic Center. I want you aware of it. Jess was given an email from the coordinator. I'm just in there to help to raise some money for them. But it's a great opportunity for us. Kingman had it last year. I helped with them. They served over 475 people at their health fair. Can you imagine what it's going to do to our community with that here? Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Would anyone else like to address the city council on this during this call to the public? All right. Oh.
Don Wisdom. I came up McCullough Avenue this evening. Thank you for a great job. Really looks beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Yeah. All right, would anyone else like to address the city council? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the call to the public. Moving on to item 6, the consent agenda. Do any of the council members want to remove any of the items for separate discussion?
Mayor,
Yes,
motion?
please.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I would like to remove an item
Okay,
for discussion.
What item would you like to remove, Councilmember Campbell?
6.5 ID 22-3135. I want discussion and clarification.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Koch, would you be willing to adjust your motion?
Sure. 6.1 and 6.5, is that what you said?
No, 6.5.
Just 6.5. Okay. Approve consent agenda as presented minus item 6.5.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item 6.5. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. All right, we'll now hear item 6.5, which is ratify the water and wastewater rate study contract amendment with Wildan Financial Services. Mr. Kozlowski or Mr. Knutson?
Yep, thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Campbell, and members of the council. This item is brought for you for your consideration. Any item that comes before council that exceeds $50,000 expense will come before council. This is a $7,000 expense that is before you this evening, but because we want to make sure that we're not exceeding that $50,000 throughout the course of a 12-month period. So that's why it's brought forward. These are based on some conversations that we had with council previously and based on the action of the council back in October. So the cost you see represented here, a portion of it is for the attendance at the meeting on late October, and the bulk of the balance is to pay for an update to the utility rate study that will reflect the will of the council that was approved at that same meeting.
Yeah, Councilmember Campbell?
My question on this is, at first it says it was signed and enforced October 26th. I thought that was just for bringing the consultants back. The scope of work is to discuss just the multifamily portion of this. Is this to help us with future discussions, or was this just to cover what we received October 26th, I believe? So if we go into another, this is not a continuation contract. And why is it in front of me today if it's already been signed, sealed, and delivered, basically?
So the Mayor Sheehy, Councilmember Campbell. So what we have here before you is for ratification. We made a determination on the staff level to get the information to the council on that October meeting. We wanted to make sure that that occurred without delay to the best of our ability. So that's what occurred as part of this this process. The utility rate study that was originally adopted by council effective July 1st. We have a rate study. We have a packet that's on our website that's available to our public, to our staff, to anybody that's interested. That rate study does not reflect the will of the council as of October. So the new rate study that is provided by Wildan as part of this cost will reflect the will of the council as of October. That's good for the duration of the approval that came from council. That was basically for 1 year. This has no impact on a second year or anything beyond that. It's simply a document that reflects the will of the council as of October 2021.
Thank you for that clarification. I just would like to know, why am I approving it now? Why is this in front of me now and not prior to October 26th? Or was that we were doing a state of an emergency, so we just moved it through? Or
yeah, it was through my determination as the city manager to make sure that the council had the information and that we were moving quickly to update the study to reflect the will of the council.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other additional questions of Mr. Knutson? All right, entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Vice Mayor Dolan?
I move to ratify the execution of the water and wastewater rate study contract amendment with Wildan Financial Services in the amount of $7,054.82.
Second.
All right, do we have a motion from Vice Mayor Dolan, a second from Councilmember Lane? Is there any further discussion? All right, we're ready to vote.
Motion carried 5-2.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 7, correspondence, communications, petitions, announcements, and the city manager report. First, we'll announce item 7.1, announce the vacancies on Lake Havasu City boards, committees, and commissions. Ms. Davis?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. There are a number of vacancies on Lake Havasu City boards, committees, commissions. The following is the list of those vacancies. The Board of Adjustment, 1 regular member and 3 alternate members. The Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, 1 regular member, and the Planning and Zoning Commission, 1 regular member. Anyone that is interested, they could pick up a packet at City Hall, or it's also available on the city's website at lhcaz.gov.
Excellent. Thank you. Item 7.2 is the city manager's report. Mr. Knutson?
Yeah, good evening again, Mayor and Council. I'd like to start this evening's report with an update on an activity that occurred just last week. A wonderful event that our Lake Havasu City Fire Department held. It was a promotional badge and pinning ceremony, which included recognition for promotions. A promotion for Battalion Chief Tim Maple, Captains Nathan Adler and Marty Port, Luther Smith, as well as engineers Nick Hovdahl, David Miura, and Kevin Tiedemann. All received recognition for their promotions in the last year. In addition to the badges as displayed on the slide, captains received a silver side-by-side bugle pin, and Battalion Chief Tim Maple received a gold 3-crossed bugle pin, representing both the tradition and rank within our fire service. I appreciated very much being part of this ceremony and enjoyed the pride surrounding the room with the families at their sides. We're all very proud of the dedication and service to this community, and we congratulate those that received a promotion for their successful career achievements. What a wonderful event as they take the oath of office and their families touch them and hold them on their shoulder or otherwise as they're part of that process. A lot of anxious folks and a lot of red faces and a lot of proud spouses and kids were at that event. So good job, Chief Palafis, for bringing this forward. We held a Veterans Treatment Court graduation just last week. Mayor Sheehy and the City Council attended the 38th Lake Havasu City Veterans Treatment Court graduation. To date, we've had 209 participants successfully completed the program. Our recidivism rate for this program remains under 10%, while the national average is at more than 75%. So kudos to Judge Clawley and his team. Mayor Sheehy presented us certificates of appreciation to our volunteer lobby greeters just last week. Since its inception, just back in November 2020, our volunteers have greeted nearly 7,000 residents and served over 1,800 hours. They've also assisted the city with sorting through the hundreds of toys that we used at the community dinner. I'd like to thank Cheryl Shea, Mary Lou Hedemark, Jim and Marcia Highland, Chris Graves, Chris Collinsworth, and Terry Eller. And a special thanks to our administrative assistant, Lori Dillery, for assisting the team when needed. And finally, a reminder to all our citizens that we need to continue to support the safe use of our water and sewer system by keeping it free from clogs that can be caused by items that do not include toilet paper. So contrary to marketing that you see in packaging and commercials, flushable wipes are not safe to flush and are causing harm to our sewer systems. This is the only product that should be flushed in the toilet is the toilet paper. It is the only product designed to break down as it travels through our sewer system. Wipes and other similar products should be disposed of in the trash. That picture you see there is what we refer to in our wastewater division as a rag monster. Those are flushable wipes, and we clear those out regularly. So please be considerate when utilizing our sewer system. Mayor and Council, on that note, I'll thank you and turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Knutson. All right, we'll move on to item 8 on our agenda, our public hearings. We'll start with item 8.1 is a Series 12 restaurant and liquor license for Breakwater Grill at 3465 Maricopa Avenue. Ms. Davis? Or is Ms. Williams going to take? Okay, Ms. Williams will join us via Zoom now.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great, thank you. Mayor and City Council Joseph Meehan has applied for a Series 12 restaurant liquor license for Breakwater Grill located at 3465 Maricopa Avenue. All posting requirements have been met, all fees have been paid, and no objections were received. The location is properly zoned for a Series 12 liquor license. I'm happy to answer any questions, and the applicant was also invited to attend today to answer any questions from the City Council.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Are there any questions of Ms. Williams or the applicant for members of the council? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this matter?
Don Wisdom again. We talked about this once before when you authorized liquor licenses. And I suggested that you put a map on there so if somebody's not familiar with that address, they would know where it's at. I did find out where the red eye is though.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, this is located over in Maricopa. I used to be the Southside Grill. But again, these agendas, I think I told you, Mr. Wisdom, at that time, are posted several days in advance, and people can do a quick Google search in anticipation of where they're located. But thank you for your comments. Would anyone else like to address the city council on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council for additional discussion or possible motion.
Mayor,
Councilmember Moses.
Ladies first.
All right, Councilmember Campbell.
or are you going to have a discussion or a motion?
I was going to motion.
I'll motion.
All right, Councilmember Campbell.
I move to recommend that Arizona Department of Liquor License and Control approve a Series Number 12 restaurant liquor license for Breakwater Grill, 3465 Maricopa Avenue. I move to recommend that the Arizona, it's a repeat. Okay,
I'll second.
thanks.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilmember Campbell and a second from Councilmember Moses. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Wow.
Motion carried. Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, item 8.2 is adopt resolution number 22-3550, appointing a regular member to the Lake Havasu City Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. Ms. Williams?
Mayor and City Council, the city received 4 applications requesting consideration for appointment as a regular member to the Lake Havasu City Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. An appointment is necessary to fill the vacancy of a regular member position. As part of the city's board, committee, and commission application and appointment process, the city implemented a new step in this process that now includes an application review panel responsible for reviewing and interviewing applicants and making recommendations to the city council for consideration of appointment. The application review panel consists of staff liaison, council liaison, the mayor, and the city clerk. Recommendations from the application review panel are included in the council communication before you, along with copies of all applications received for the city council's consideration of appointment. All applicants were notified regarding the scheduled city council meeting date for consideration of appointment and were encouraged to attend the meeting tonight to answer any questions from the city council. So before you in the council communication, the application review panel conducted interviews on January 10th and recommends that Guy Reynolds be appointed as a regular member to the Lake Havasu City Parks and Recreation Advisory Board with a term ending June 30th, 2022. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Okay, so as part of the pool of folks that were on the interview panel, the reason that really drove this is over the last several appointment processes, we've had such amazing talent come forward from our community, which we are so grateful for, to want to serve on our boards, committees, and commissions with a wealth of knowledge. And we didn't feel like we were giving the applicants or even getting to know the applicants in just a quick 30-second interview here at the council chambers. So Ms. Williams and her team went to work to address that for us, put together this interview panel, and it would consist of the council liaison, the mayor or mayor's representative, of course, the city clerk, and then a staff liaison. So for this particular one, myself, Councilmember Lynn, Mr. Keene, Parks and Recreation Director, and Ms. Williams, the city clerk, were in the interview panel and are making that recommendation. But since this is the first time we're doing it, all of the applicants are here. Some of them are in this room. It's the will of the council if you would like to speak with any additional applicants or you have any questions for the applicants. And of course, any motion will be entertained with any of the applicants that are listed in our council communication that have applied for this position. With that being said, I'll open up to any questions or discussion of the council on what direction you want to go, or do we want to go with the recommendation of the committee?
Mayor, I just want to agree with you. I went through every one of these applications and I am so we are so blessed as a city to have so many citizens step up. These applicants were amazing, and I would love for each and every one of you to continue to be involved in our community. It's incredibly important to our community. With that being said, I would move to recommend Guy Reynolds as well.
Okay, great.
Do you want me to?
Oh, we need to open the public
Yeah,
hearing
okay.
first. Is there any additional conversation or comments from members of the council before we open the public hearing? All right, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this matter?
Hello, my name is David Diaz, and I want to thank you guys for inviting me and also as one of the applicants. And it was very, very well done, very professional, great questions asked by Mr. Keene and Michelle, Kelly, and you, Mayor. So I want to appreciate the opportunity. I think it was very well done. I think it's a great system you've got into place, better than coming up here for 10 seconds or 20 seconds and giving a quick, hoorah, and then hoping you get elected, or appointed, I should say. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, David.
Would anyone else like to address the city council on this matter? All right, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council for discussion or possible motion.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Vice Mayor Dolan?
I'm open to a sing-off if they want to do that. or dance off. I'm open for either. I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Yes, please.
All right. I move to adopt resolution number 22-3550, appointing Guy Reynolds as a regular member to the Lake Havasu City Parks and Recreation Advisory Board with a term ending June 30th, 2022.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Dolan and a second from Councilmember Campbell. Is there any further discussion? Moses, I'm sorry. Let me start all over. We have a motion from Vice Mayor Dolan and a second from Councilmember Moses. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. And again, thank you to all the applicants for the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. Great talent, and we look forward to having you serve on a future committee or commission. So thank you so much. Moving on to item 8.3 is adopt resolution number 22-3551, appointing members to the Lake Havasu City Planning and Zoning Commission. Ms. Williams.
Mayor and City Council, the city received 6 applications requesting consideration for appointment to the Lake Havasu City Planning and Zoning Commission. An appointment is needed to fill a regular member vacancy. The application review panel conducted interviews on January 10th, 2022, and recommends that Susanna Ballard be appointed as a regular member to the Planning and Zoning Commission with a term ending June 30th, 2023. If appointed, Ms. Ballard is currently an alternate member, therefore an alternate member position would become available. The application review panel recommends that Mr. Paul Lair be appointed to fill the alternate member position with a term ending June 30th, 2023 as well. In your packet, there were 5 applications that were attached, and then an additional application was received and was forwarded to you today via email. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. And again, the same process was followed in this case, and the interview panel was myself, Jeff Tuneman, our Development Services Director, Luke Morris, Zoning Administrator, and am I missing someone? Oh, Ms. Williams was there. We kind of had multiple people in the room. So Councilmember Lynn was in that as well as Mr. Keene. So same recommendation, same process, and we were able to get to know some really great applicants. Susanna Ballard currently holds the alternate position, and she would be, if it's the will of the council this evening, she would move into a full-time spot. So with that being said, is there any questions of the council before we open the public hearing? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this matter? Yes.
Good evening, council. I was the, excuse me, the 6th application that was forwarded to you this evening. I forwarded my application in last week, January 19th, with asking questions of deadline dates, how the process worked. It just was brought to my attention that the council does an appointment of this. There was no conversation about interviews. And when I forwarded my application, there was nothing saying, by the way, you missed the deadline, which is not posted anywhere. or any of that. It was just your application's been received and thank you. And so I just happened to read the newspaper this morning and the agenda for city council and saw that this was on your agenda. I emailed Ms. Williams and asked her questions pertaining to this. And with several hours was then mentioned, by the way, I could come this evening and my application was forwarded. So unfortunately, I was not given the opportunity to be interviewed or questioned. And I'm here to answer any questions regarding the application I have submitted.
Yeah, great. Do any members of the council have any questions for Ms. Wilson? Yeah, Councilmember Campbell?
Were we forwarded that? Is it?
Yeah, Ms. Williams forwarded it to us this afternoon. I think around 2:30 or 3 this afternoon.
It's on my email then.
Yes, yes, she forwarded it via email. Yeah, and Ms. Wilson, we apologize for that. And with this new process going through an interview panel, we will have deadlines set so that citizens know what to expect with the deadline. That was an oversight that we had going into this new process, but your application will remain on file as all of the applications remain on file. And when another vacancy opens, you'll be notified at that time. And this is a kind of a unique situation, filling a vacancy for one of our Planning and Zoning Commission members that unfortunately passed away. But in July, we do have several additional openings because of terms coming up at that time.
No, absolutely. I just, my recommendation obviously was there wasn't any clear. I did ask some questions, still was no clarification. So again.
Yeah, and we appreciate you bringing that to our attention so that we can address it for the future. Councilmember Lane?
Yes,
yeah,
thank
please.
you. First off, I want to say I read your application and it's quite impressive. So definitely, I think in this particular instance, we have somebody who is an alternate. We'll be moving them up into a full position, but definitely would like to see you apply in the future because you do have quite the resume.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you.
Yes. Would anyone else like to address the City Council on this matter? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to council for any discussion or possible motion.
Mayor?
Councilmember Moses?
I move to adopt resolution number 22-3551, appointing as a regular member to the Lake Havasu City Planning and Zoning Commission with the term ending June 30th, 2023 for Susanna Ballard. And I'm looking for the rest of it. Sorry, hold on. And then appointing Paul Lair as the alternate member to the Lake Havasu City Planning and Zoning Commission with a term ending June 30th, 2023.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Moses.
That was a hard one, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no, thank you. We have a motion from Councilmember Moses, a second from Councilmember Lane. Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. And again, thank you to all the applicants. Great, great experience, and we look forward to having you serve on a future board, committee, or commission. All right, item 8.4 is adopt ordinance number 22-1278, amending the Lake Havasu City Code, Chapter 2.04, City Administration and Council, council requests and public requests. Ms. Williams.
Mayor and City Council, at the November 23rd, 2021 City Council regular meeting, the City Council provided staff with direction on changes to council requests and public requests. The proposed ordinance makes the following changes necessary to carry out the direction received. This ordinance was introduced at the January 11th, 2022 City Council regular meeting with no changes. Happy to answer any questions. The tracked changed ordinance was provided in the council communication as well as the meeting minutes from the November 23rd meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Are there any questions of any members of the council on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Would anyone like to address the City Council on this matter? Yep.
James Maniaci again. Can you briefly outline the major changes? Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. So what this ordinance will be doing is clarifying the process in which council members and citizens can get items on the city council agenda. It changed, it removed some words from what was initially on the ordinance to provide that clarification that council members were looking for. Would anyone else like to address the city council on this matter? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to council for discussion or possible motion.
Mr. Mayor, motion.
Yeah, Councilmember Lane.
I move to adopt ordinance number 22-1278, amending Lake Havasu City Code Chapter 2.04, Administration and City Council regarding council requests and public requests.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Lane, a second from Councilmember Campbell. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
yeah,
we might just want to point out, we didn't have a discussion on it at this time. We've had 2 public meetings prior to this where we discussed it. So sometimes people think we don't think about it, but this is just the 3rd meeting we've discussed it. So just for those at home keeping track.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, we had some really robust conversation about this and where to go. So at the final adoption, which is the process to give time. So great clarification point, Vice Mayor Dolan. Any additional comments? All right, we're ready to vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. Item 8.5 is introduce ordinance number 22-1279, amending City Code 9.16.160, aircraft and parachute landings and takeoffs to clarify landing and takeoffs and to allow commercial parachuting and hot air ballooning with a permit. Mr. Anderson.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Yeah, so this was brought to staff to review and give recommendation on what we could do with this. So I took it.
Mr. Anderson, can you just bring that microphone a little? Yeah, thank you.
So I took the code as it was. We decided to clean up the language some, add some clarification to it. We realized, I have a permitting process for commercial activities already out at the airport, so that is in place. But realized that if there was going to be commercial activities outside the airport, we didn't have a mechanism or permit in place for any oversight of that. So we decided to put that in there. If there was going to be any commercial activities with parachutes, hot air balloons, that we'd create a permit for them, and they would have that to go through. And so we took this to the Airport Advisory Board for a discussion and recommendation from them. And they took the code that, as presented here, short discussion, and agreed with the way it's laid out, and wanted to present what we have. And it's open for discussion with, we're willing to talk about any part of it that we need to.
Okay, so Mr. Anderson, during the call to the public in the fall, we had several operators come in for parachuting operations as well as commercial helicopters. And going through the council communication, it seems that when you went to the Airport Advisory Committee, that you had the discussion about parachute activities, hot air balloon, commercial hot air balloon activity. And then it seems like there might have been a conversation that helicopters were to stay at the airport. Can you talk a little bit about what that conversation was?
Sure. They, that's definitely how this came about. After, talking to the city and finding out about all the extra complaints that came up, over the advocates for that, we realized that that's probably not going to be recommended to, have people taking off and landing behind people's houses on the island or what have you. I've talked to other airports, things of that nature, and I've come from Sedona as well, and residents don't like helicopter sounds like that, especially out of their backyard or what have you. And the airport's there to be used for those aircraft to take off and land from, and so that was the recommendation that the Airport Advisory Board agreed to give when it comes to that.
Okay. And so with what's in front of us this evening, if the council votes in favor of it, this would allow for parachute operations to occur within the city. They still would take off from the airport.
Correct.
They would have to have some sort of arrangement with the landing spot.
Correct. Yeah, that's a different discussion. It's a pretty lengthy process just to get a drop zone located anywhere, and so that would fall under that once that got done.
Okay, great. And then it also would allow for commercial activity. That's not private balloon enthusiasts. Those are folks that are charging a fee to go up in a hot air balloon?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And then and then it just reaffirms that helicopter operations only can occur at the airport.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Vice Mayor Dolan?
No, not a question. Just wanted to fill in a little bit on the ballooning side. I'm a big fan of the commercial limitation in there for ballooning and the parachutes because it does give the city some control. Speaking to I'm actually a commercial hot air balloon pilot myself, but I don't fly commercially, but I can. I spoke to the other pilot here in town who flies commercially, and we both felt the need that it gives us, it's to be able to stay ahead of it, to be able to give permits where we can have limitations such as minimum insurance requirements. You could have somebody just set up their balloon at Rotary Park and start, selling tethered rides. So it would limit things like that. So from the few of us in the ballooning community, we do support that addition to this to give the city some control over the commercial activities.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor Dolan. Councilmember Lynn?
Can you tell me what the time frame is for getting a permit? I only ask that because I'm assuming that most of the balloonists that come in town for like the Balloon Fest, they know that they need to get this permit. But like Havasu has become kind of the place where people want a balloon. So how do like new people coming in, how are they going to know that they have to get the permit? And then how long does it take what if they just came in on a Friday and they wanted to go on Saturday? Are they going to be able to do that? And the second question I have is, what if they come here and they don't know they have to get a permit? Like, what's the consequences?
For the hot air balloons to recreational flight?
Yeah, if somebody comes here and they don't get a permit, what's their consequence? Does that make sense?
I think Councilmember Lynn, if I may, this only allows for commercial activity. So if you're going to operate a business, you would know you would have to get approval. So an individual enthusiast that's just going to, if you're a balloon pilot and you're going to take your family up, you can do that currently without an issue. Yeah, this is only commercial activities. If you're going to come with a basket for 20 people and you're charging a certain fee per person, you would have to go through this process. Yeah, you're welcome. Does that answer your question? Yeah, okay.
Mayor?
Yeah, Councilmember Campbell?
Just clarification and discussion. Back in the day, I understand industrial zones had helicopter ports here. Is this true?
I've heard that before as well, yes.
Also, wasn't the island the original airport?
Correct.
In other communities, do they not have communities that have heliports on high-end homes that they just even a Bullhead City has heliports coming right off their properties?
Sure, I've heard of that as well, yes.
What makes us so restrictive to these?
We get several complaints just from the helicopter traffic coming out of the hospital, which is one thing, and this is probably going to be tenfold, that kind of traffic right out of some other residences areas. And like I say, coming from Sedona, if this is a thriving business that can do that, there's going to be other people coming to do the same kind of business, and it's hard to dictate one from the other. The next thing you know, it's a lot of it going on.
It mentioned something about a special permit. What would that look like? Could it be something a helicopter pilot can do for maybe a 30-day period of time during a peak season, special events, Desert Storm? As you know, we have helicopters chasing the boats. I know a lot of citizens would love to be out and following along with them. Mm-hmm. I was just wondering how this particular business that went to so much trouble that brought this to us, how can we make it feasible for him to maybe work 30-day permits? Is this something we discussed? I did go to the Airport Advisory Board meeting, and there didn't seem to be much discussion about this at all. And I was hoping that we were going to have more community outreach. I myself was hoping to hear complaints from the people at the airport or complaints from local citizens, and I have not heard anything, and I'm sure that there is, but I would have loved to have this two-way conversation.
I understand. We can look into some possible 30-day permits. It's always a possibility. This was just what was sent to me as a recommendation as well, and I took it to the airport community and to get their opinion, and this is what we have.
And I understand the recommendation basically came from staff. is when I went to the Airport Advisory Board, it seemed like the staff had just given it to you like this, and it didn't seem like there was much discussion. Was there other discussion going on that they're discussing tonight that I missed?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councilmember Campbell, some of the other airports that you're talking about are actually, they operate out of the airport. So the helicopter conversation, we separate allowing helicopters to take off and land, not at the airport. So that's the difference. I get your point with the helipads at home sites or other commercial areas, but.
Did we remove then industrial zones to not allow helicopter ports in Lake Havasu? Because I know I own property that's industrial, and I got to dig deeper, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if it's zoned. I know there's one area in industrial that has a helipad today, and it's my understanding that it was grandfathered in, whatever that means. I don't know what that means, but it's not currently an active helipad, if that answers it. So
That's my understanding.
I just don't know. Yeah. But currently, that also would be in violation of our current code that you have to operate from the airport. So I don't know what that does.
When did this code come into place?
It's existing now. So I don't know when the current code that says the helicopter operations have to occur at the airport was. I don't know. Maybe Ms. Gary, not to put you on the spot. I don't know if you might have a date in the code book. So yeah, we can
look that up as we do that. But it's been in place for several years.
The last time that this kind of ordinance, this neighborhood of an ordinance was done was the balloon ordinance. Was that 2010?
I can jump in and give a little bit of my understanding. I don't know exactly when the original ordinance was put in place. My understanding it was because of somebody that had their own helicopter that was taking off near their house, and so they put this rule over the city: you can't take off and land anywhere but an airport. It also included ballooning. Since then, that had been removed. In my honest opinion, which I'm told I'm not supposed to give, this is also why we have this ordinance. I mean, if we were talking about a place that had a heliport that had fenced off with fueling systems and all this in place that met city code, I think that's something we could then amend this ordinance to and look into a little more detail. Problem is, we're talking about is a helicopter that's landing in an open parking lot, no security, fuel sitting out. This is why we have this ordinance in place. So, like I said, I mean, as a council member, I'm open to, a possibility. I know, the airport is way out there, and maybe finding another location, maybe we can find out what it takes to get a heliport. I'm wondering if the heliport's approved by the FAA. I don't know. But I know that this is a problem across America, that people have these helicopters and they tend to love them, and 99% of their neighbors do not. So,
Well, I thank you for that, because I thought that's the discussion we were going to have here. When it came to us several months ago, this is what I thought was going to be happen, that we were going to look at the fuel tanks and the location, and what did the neighbors say, and did we have a petition? And I really followed it through, and I didn't get any feedback from anybody other than the applicant or the business at the time had just moved out of town and he didn't care. Well, this is something that we still need to discuss in length, because I do agree that we can't have helicopters just dropping in every neighborhood, but the Riviera is spending a ton of money on homes, and if they come knocking and want to maybe discuss heliports, is that going to be a neighborhood? I was hoping when this went through the advisory board, and I was hoping all these months that passed, that we'd be coming to the citizens and the business owner with a little bit more clarity than what we have in front of us. It just basically seems like we parlayed back to that's what the staff wanted, no questions asked, done. That's the way I feel.
Mayor, Councilmember Campbell.
Ms. Gary.
Okay, so it says in the code book, as far as like the codification history, that it goes back to 86. I pulled up the ordinance from 86, and it says that it's amending the section. So there were previous sections before 86, but at least I can tell you the language in 36 didn't allow regular takeoffs or landing of aircraft of any kind without the use of an approved aircraft landing facility, helipad structure, or site adequate to accommodate such activity. It kind of goes through in here where at that time the city could approve temporary landing or permanent landing facilities, including a helipad structure. So, and that has changed now several times over the years, so I can't tell you exactly when the helipad structure was removed, but at least back in 86, those things were allowed, and there was an approval process for that. That doesn't exist today, though.
I would like to recommend staff go back and look at that particular code because that seems more inviting than what we have going on here and a little bit more two-way conversations. And I don't expect everybody to just take helicopters in their backyard moving forward, but heliports, what do they look like? What is your fuel reserves? Everything that we talked about. I think that we should do our due diligence and support this business owner that had brought it to our attention and do a little bit more work on our behalf. And that seemed like a better ordinance.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Campbell. Just so that we have some clarification what we're doing here tonight. So tonight, the ordinance that is suggested is went through, whether it had staff recommendation or not, it went through the Planning and Zoning Commission. It's now being recommended to council for adoption, and it allows for commercial ballooning activity and parachute activities, which also that same council meeting, we had folks of the public asking to allow for parachute opportunities there. What it doesn't address, and it doesn't allow for commercial landings and takeoffs of helicopters outside of the airport. So if that's the direction of the council, we still can introduce this ordinance here. It solves some approaches, and if we still have some interest that we want to address helicopter commercial landings and takeoffs in areas, we can have that conversation and give direction tonight. So I mean, this is just coming through the recommendation from the Airport Advisory Board. It's the will of the council to make the decision on what we're going to do. We're the policymakers, and that's what we're here to do. So I just want to give that clarification of what we're here to do, what's in front of us, and what we're doing. Councilmember Lane, I know you have some comments, and it looks like Councilmember Moses. So we'll do Councilmember Lane and then Councilmember Moses.
Thank you. And I agree with you. We do need to have the discussion. That's why we're here. Let's have this discussion. We have their recommendations, but that's all they are is recommendations. Mm-hmm. So now we have our discussion. And I don't know about you. I know I got emails and phone calls and people telling me, please don't allow this out on the island. We don't want this out on the island. I think it's wonderful that the gentleman wants to bring a business here and do helicopter tours of our area. I think helicopter tours of our area would be a very successful business, but it belongs to the airport. Aircraft taking off and landing should be taking off and landing from a location like an airport where it's safe and you have a pad that is secure. Now, we do have one other location on top of the hospital, but that's secure. The public can't get to it. When you're landing out on an old abandoned golf course, you really don't have any safety measures in place. The idea of the parachuting, they're already taking off from the airport. So they are taking off and the aircraft is landing at the airport. It's just a matter of whether or not the people are jumping out and where they're going to land within the city, whether they have a drop zone on the island, or they have a drop zone on the north end of town, or they have a drop zone on the south end of town. When they go out, they have a drop zone. They're not just jumping out willy-nilly and landing somewhere. Same with the helicopter. They're going to have a landing zone. For me, a rotorcraft like that, the best location for that is at an airport behind a fence. Commercial ballooning. We see balloons taking off here all the time. Ballooning is a big part of Lake Havasu. This is just commercial ballooning. So if they have to have a business license, if they're running a business, and then they have to do that with a permit. So the way the ordinance is written tonight, I like it myself because it will allow the parachuting companies to take off and the aircraft to land back at the airport and with the permit and have a drop zone somewhere in the city. With the helicopter, I think it's the safe place. Still have the helicopter tours. I think that's a great idea, especially if they're flying up through the gorge and down to the south end and all that. But for a helicopter operations, my personal opinion, which I know we're not allowed to have those apparently. And from what I have heard back from the public that has spoken to me, they have requested that this not be allowed, not have helicopters. So we wouldn't have to change that part of the ordinance. So that's my comments.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Lane. Councilmember Moses?
Yeah, thank you. I was absolutely excited to see that somebody was doing this business, and I think it's a great asset to the tourism in our community, and I think this is something that could potentially grow. I have my opinions about where helicopters should take off or not. And I too, like Nancy, was really hoping to hear from the Airport Advisory Board specifically, where can helicopters take off or not? and how this kind of happened, I feel like it just kind of got jumbled in there kind of deal. It's just kind of included with everything else. And so I agree with Nancy. I think if I'd like to see this pass, but I'd like us to go back to the Airport Advisory Board and hear what are the real problems of having somebody taken off from a dirt lot out in the middle, in the middle of a residential area or commercial area or anything. What are some of the bad stuff that can happen, and what do we need to look out for, and where can we have them if it's not at the airport? What would be appropriate? So that's how I'd like to see this happen tonight.
Yeah, great. Well, we're having a great conversation. Let's add another element to the conversation, which is the public, and let's get their feedback and see what that dynamic brings, and we'll bring it back to council for additional discussion. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just one.
Yeah.
All I wanted to
Campbell.
say is, all due respect, Councilmember Lane, that particular night that gentleman was here, that it was standing room only. We ended up getting so many emails through saying that they wanted this. Plus, the only emails I got were people supporting it, maybe not in that location, but extremely supporting the discussion of what we could do to assist businesses like this.
All right, so this is a public hearing. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this matter? As you make your way to the podium, just state your name for the city clerk and share your comments.
Well, I was thinking.
Mr. Wisdom, just bring that microphone a little. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Yes.
Not too high. On McCullough, we have a big piece of grass out there. If we fence that off, that would be a great heliport. We would have tons of people getting in a helicopter legally and flying around, showing them Havasu, new people coming in. That would be a great place. We still don't have anything planned for that grass yet. What do you think?
Well, thank you, Mr. Wisdom. There was a Parks and Rec Advisory Board meeting yesterday that gave an update on what they're doing with that area, but we don't generally go and allow commercial activities to occur in public spaces like that for the benefit of one person. We try to do benefit of the whole, but thank you for your comments. Yes.
James Maniaci again. When you introduce an ordinance, is there a required time where it progresses to the adoption stage?
Yeah, so typically in Lake Havasu City, we'll have an introduction at one meeting, and then in our subsequent meeting that follows, we'll have the adoption of that ordinance. So that allows for about a month period. In this case, this conversation started in September with several citizens coming to call to the public, then visiting our airport advisory board, and then coming to the council meeting for introduction this evening.
Is that required that it comes to the next regular meeting?
It's not required for the next. I don't believe there's a time specific in the code, but that's just typically how our process works.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor, council, staff, Derek Bilkey, owner of Optic Helicopters. I think this is the reason why this is in discussion right now. I first off want to state that all the concerns and comments, I 100% agree with you guys. We don't want, me even as a helicopter guy, love helicopters. All I want to do is find a cool spot to land because that's what they're made for. I don't think a helicopter should be taken off in everybody's backyards or in dangerous situations and stuff like that. I 100% agree with that. What I don't really quite understand is if, such as like this is a recommendation or whether this is saying that we'll allow these parachute operations if a permit is approved. So why not just do the same thing with helicopters? It doesn't mean you're gonna have a helicopter in every backyard. It means if you go through the proper channels and you, just like you guys are talking about, have a fenced area, have proper fuel, have all this determined safety stuff, why not allow a helicopter to do it? And it's, so I kind of agree with Mrs. Campbell and Mr. Moses. I was the one that this is kind of here because of me, and I just got swept under the rug. Like, oh, forget that guy. I can't help but feel that way. But your concerns are completely understandable. I'm just asking that we can have some further discussion on this because I do agree that there needs to be safety standards. And if there's a proper permit process and it can get approved and everybody thinks it's safe with all the departments, then why not do it? The difference between me being on the island and the airport is tremendous. And not only for the business side, but for the tourism side. No, people just drive by the airport. Even if you have a sign out there, there've been many helicopter operators come in here and try to do this and it just doesn't work because there's not enough traffic flow. At the island, it's kind of right in front of their face. It's convenient, it's easy, and I can make it extremely cheap, starting at $40 on the island. Everybody wanted to do it. And that just, it's good for everybody. It's good for the community, it's good for tourism. And if we're doing it safely, I just don't understand why we couldn't do it. If the FAA is fine with it and the city permits it through a process, then I think it should be allowed. So I would ask that we can have some further discussion on this.
Mr. Wilkie, did you attend the airport advisory board that addressed this issue and to bring light to the issue with the helicopters?
No, I did not because this, because I did get partially shut down from this location. I've had to travel for work and move. I have multiple different remote locations that allow this. This is my hometown. This is where I was born. This is where I was raised, and this is where I want to stay. But I cannot do that just being at the airport.
Okay.
So I was not able to be in town for that, nor was I aware of it. So I was not there. No.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. We go through the public process, so I'm trying to figure out where our disconnect was of how that didn't occur. And I know you and I have been playing a really mean game of phone tag, we'll get together and talk about this. I appreciate your comments, and I think that we can have further discussion outside of the action taken this evening. But do any council members have any questions for Mr. Boki? Vice Mayor Dolan?
Yeah, what kind of procedures do you have out at the airport? Are you under contract with the city? Do we have your insurance on file? I mean, if you're running business out of the airport, do you have certain safety protocols? I mean, is it all, now that it's at the airport, how does it operate there? Is it?
Currently at the moment, it's not at the airport. I'm in a different location in California.
Oh, okay.
But when it was, or when I was doing things, basically, I just go by what the FAA requires. The FAA requires to have some safety protocol, which means it could be safety cones, or the easiest mobile thing is personnel. As long as you have personnel on the ground, as this is straight from my representation of my FAA safety inspector that I talked to. As long as they can come out and say, oh, he's making a safety effort, there's no one that's going to walk up to this helicopter without somebody seeing and stopping them, then they're okay with it. And that's basically, we always have a ground crew. And that's the easiest thing to do. And the cheapest thing to do for a small guy like me that's just trying to make it.
Okay. Because I mean, of course, we're worried about safety and security and all that, and insurance, of course, liability. And so, okay, thank you.
Mayor?
Yeah, Councilmember Campbell?
I do agree with him that we should rewrite this just a little bit by allowing commercial parachuting and hot air ballooning and helicopters with a permit. And then we need to discuss, what does that permit look like? Is it 1,000 feet away from each resident? Is it, what does this helicopter port, if even feasible, what is it going to look like? And so today, we could do one step forward by maybe amending this to say including helicopters with a permit, and then work on the permit process, because it seems like we still are working on all of that.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. Yeah, any other questions of Mr. Boki? Councilmember Lynn? We've talked a lot about Mr. Boki around the table, so I think we can grant him a few extra minutes to answer our questions.
I don't have a question for him, but I do have a question. If we rewrite this and decide how we're going to do it with the permits, and he decides he wants to do business out at the airport, can somebody explain to me how that even works? Like, how can a private business go out to the airport? Like, can somebody explain how he's able to do that, if that's what he chooses to do, or is that allowed?
The city code right now allows for commercial activities to occur at the airport. And so it depends. We have several of them. We have some tenants that are fixed-based operators. So we have a couple of FBOs. We have a car rental company out there. We have several citizens that rent just hangars from the city, just a place to store their aircraft. And so there is a process that allows for commercial activity to occur at the airport through a variety of different permit processes that are supported by the FAA, and I'm starting to get out of my boundaries. So I think I might have addressed it. Does that answer your question, Councilmember Lynn? If you want more specific, I'm sure Mr. Anderson or Mr. Knutson can answer.
It does. I just think that some of the business that you talk about are very different than a helicopter business, and what liabilities look like of having somebody hold a business at a city-owned airport and what that looks like for life. And I understand the insurance and all that. I'm just curious of what that looks like for him so that he has all his ducks in the row before he goes and does something like that so he's not turned away again.
Sure. Yeah, great point. I don't know if that's dictated by the FAA or even Mr. Brokey might be able to answer.
I do know that if you have a commercial operation at the airport, there is a commercial application process that you go through that gets approved by the airport. I kind of don't know all the steps that it goes through, but it gets approved or it doesn't get approved. I do know there's that application, and I'm in the middle of that now. And something to add and maybe improve within the city. When I first did this, I went to the city offices and talked to the front desk, and I said, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. What do I need to do? All they told me, were able to tell me, is they fill out this business license application. Anything that comes up will come up during that process. So as I know that this is abnormal, that's not a hot dog stand. So I submitted a letter of explanation with that business license application, even though it was not required. I did that because I knew questions were going to arise, and nothing came up. I just got a business license in the mail for the address on the island. So in my eyes, I'm like, okay, I've done this in other cities, and they came back, said no, denied, or hey, we need this or we need that, just based off of that business license application, and that did not happen here. So in my eyes, I got my business license for this address. They knew what I was doing. I'm good to go. So I would probably look into that and make sure that doesn't happen, because that's where I started on all this. And then it wasn't until afterwards that I found out, there's city code against it. You need a conditional use permit. And then I didn't even know about the commercial permit for the airport, because that's not always required either. So.
Yeah, and thank you for that background information, and I believe you provided that at the call to the public as well. And we have tightened that up a notch. So, yeah, Councilmember Moses.
Well, I was going to ask, where in the other cities, where is your heliport located?
It's similar to a bunker bar scenario, just outside the Glamis Sand Dunes. So
it's not within a city?
No, it's not within the city limits.
And then do you have any other locations?
No, not as of now.
Okay.
I've worked for other companies before I started my own, and we did this process through multiple different companies or different towns and cities, including Sedona, which actually we got denied for. We had to stay at the airport, but so I'm pretty somewhat familiar with like different cities and how they work, and that's why I started where I started, and nothing came up. So
as someone who goes on vacation, I love to go on helicopter rides around. I think it's one of the most amazing experiences. But every single one that I've ever flown in, I've had to drive a significant distance to get to the heliport that was not surrounded by anything else to go explore. And so I was just wondering if you've done this before, what exceptions have other cities made? But yeah, I understand that it would make sense maybe out at Glamis. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. This is still, please, still call the public. Just make your way to the podium, state your name for the record.
Marty Miller. This is just food for thought. I'm a big supporter of helicopters. That's what I did in the Marine Corps. I lived on a helicopter base for years, so the more helicopters I hear, the better for me. But everybody's thinking a heliport, fuel, and everything else. Someone could have a heliport in their back property, like out on Bison, where they've got acreage. It's just a heliport. It's just a slab where they come. Fuel, go to the airport. Just food for thought. It doesn't have to be a big FBO operation.
Yeah, thank you, Marty.
Good evening, City Council. I'm Derek Foster. Been a citizen here since 2004. I just wanted to show support for the helicopter. I have never heard anybody complain about the noise. I've worked at Discount Tire here in town for 11 years. I see a lot of familiar faces in here, and I know a lot of people enjoy it, and I've never heard anybody complain about noise or anything like that. So I just want to show my support for the local business.
Yeah, thank you. Would anyone else like to address the City Council? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to council for additional discussion. One point is I don't disagree that we need to have a little more discussion on helicopters. I don't feel comfortable changing what's in front of us tonight. I would prefer that we introduce the ordinance as written here with giving staff direction to go back to the airport advisory and engage the community so we can have helicopter specific conversation at the airport advisory and come back to us. That's what we have that advisory board for. And making that small change, although it would be a step forward, could potentially cause an issue for the airport advisory board or those that are engaged in the aviation community. That's my perspective of what's in front of us. But any additional comments or thoughts from members of the council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Vice Mayor Dolan.
I agree. I think the whole reason, we did have somebody come before council about parachutes and helicopters. They are different. I mean, they're not asking to land their parachute plane out on the island. They're asking to drop in an approved drop zone. So this does give us the ability to do that. They're still conducting business out at the airport. They're still picking people up out at the airport. If they sign an agreement with the city, we have their insurance on file. They get in the gate. All that kind of stuff is official. So I believe we've solved that issue with the parachuting. I believe it does give us control with the parachuting and hot air ballooning. So if they're landing in places they necessarily shouldn't. I am definitely open to the helicopter discussion. I don't know if we can change. I wouldn't change it right now. But I think then I would encourage the helicopter community to come and present something to us of where they'd set up and where they do it. And, we have a community meeting with people in the area and then we go through that process. But I think opening the door right now with little to no details on that, to me, I think commercial powered aircraft should be at the airport right now until we have something set up that would give us reason to change it. So with that in mind, I would like to make a motion.
Yeah, please.
Okay. I move to introduce ordinance number 22-1279, amending City Code 9.16.160, aircraft and parachute landings and takeoffs to clarify landing and takeoffs and to allow commercial parachuting and hot air ballooning with a permit.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Vice Mayor Dolan, a second from Councilmember Lane. Is there any additional discussion?
I have a question. So if we do this, I want to know we're going to come back and do this. Like, I want to know we're going to talk about the helicopter. To me, so we're going to have two different ordinances then?
No, it can then be amended if that's what is most appropriate based on the feedback from the Airport Advisory Committee and then.
So what's the hurry to do this
discussion
today? Like, why don't we put it all together? We're going to come back and do this again and hash this out again.
Are there any other problems that this is solving besides helicopters?
It allows parachute activities, which was also introduced at call to the public in the fall, and it also allows for commercial hot air ballooning.
So that might be why we address this tonight, to address the parachuting issue, and then that way that I think it's on us as city council members to
ensure
hold the feet to the fire, make sure that we get this done, because I definitely want to work with Mr. Bilkey to find a way forward.
Yeah. So is the great comments, Councilmember Moses, but I want to make sure I'm very clear. I'm open to the discussion. I don't know if having helicopter operations outside of the airport is something I support or not, but I do want feedback from
Absolutely.
the aviation community, and I'm open-minded to the conversation.
Yeah,
so, okay. I just want to make sure I'm clear on where my position is. I'm open-minded to it, but so what we have in front of us is we have the motion that Vice Mayor Dolan has introduced. Now, if we wanted to come back and have conversation to what it would take to have helicopter operations in the city, do we need to give direction right now, or is that already?
Yes, I would give direction because all you're doing right now by that motion is introducing the item and there's no further direction that you've given. We've heard the discussion that you've had, but we really don't know if there's a consensus or specific direction. So if there's something specific that you know that you want to include in this ordinance, I would kind of address that now in the motion. At least it gives us a little bit of flexibility, because introducing it just as it is not suggesting in any way that we're going to bring it back with some major changes as to helicopters.
So from my perspective, this is an introduction, come back at a subsequent meeting to adopt this current ordinance as in front of us, while Damon and his team simultaneously engage the aviation community about helicopters.
Mayor?
Let me just get Ms. Gary's comments.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, you can absolutely do it that way, but then you'll have two different ordinances.
Okay.
So you'll have this ordinance that's going down this track and it'll make this changes, and then we'll come back with a separate ordinance that makes if there are additional changes as to helicopters, you'll see a separate ordinance.
Okay.
Mayor, and I just want to remind everybody, putting your feet to the fire on this, this has been 5 months since he was here. Not to mention, he did what he thought was correct to get this business up and running. He got it up and running and shut down. I don't see how adding the verbiage, allowing commercial parachuting, hot air ballooning, and helicopters with the permit, it doesn't even seem like we have the permit process in place for the commercial parachuting. So this seems like the staff would just go at it all together and come back, and we can, they can get the permit process in place. And if it means the permit comes back and says you have to be 3,000 feet away from any other building, at least we'll have some direction. I just think we're kicking the can down the street, as we call it. I think this business owner has been very patient, due diligent. He's sacrificed financially already. He's moved his business out of town, and we're just saying, oh, we'll take care of these two now, but we're not going to take care of him. And that is the reason why we're here tonight. So if everybody here feels comfortable kicking the can down the street again after 5 months of absolutely nothing, I don't think we've done him any justice.
Yeah, and I appreciate your comments, but we're not here for one person. We do things for the whole of a community. And what we would be doing here would be addressing two items that are part of changes that have been vetted through the Airport Advisory Board, which is the aviation community. Not to put Mr. Bilkey on the spot, but he had an opportunity to attend that meeting and make a conversation about helicopters. We also, as I mentioned, indicated we've been playing phone tag for 5 months. And so we have to do what's best for the entire community, what's been vetted. In my opinion, this has been vetted through the process that we set up. If we were to change this suggested ordinance now and add what Councilmember Campbell is mentioning, that would say that we support helicopter landings and takeoffs outside of the airport. I don't support that necessarily. I don't know if I support it until we vet it through the aviation community, but that's what that action would do tonight, is allow for helicopter activities to take place, landings and takeoffs outside of the airport. So the permit process doesn't come back before council. So we're adopting this. The permit process then is handled by Mr. Anderson and his team.
Yeah, if you just.
So.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Vice Mayor.
Also, I think we're putting a lot of effort or a lot of faith in a permit process that doesn't exist. My problem is if we're going to change code for something that doesn't even exist simply because we're motivated, and I think it's a great idea. I think it's cool to have helicopters flying around the bridge too, and minus the noise and the safety issues, I think it's really cool. But to change a city ordinance with nothing presented to the city, no plan, no nothing. He's not even operating out at the airport under any sort of protocol. We don't have insurance. We don't have anything in place. We want to open up a back door because we think this is a great idea. Safety-wise, I am part of the aviation community. I'm a pilot as well. I'm getting my fixed wing license. I'm out at the airport. I know what some of the pilots, they're all about safety. So we were here to solve a problem with the parachutes, and we added the commercial ballooning on it just to give us an extra layer. But in my understanding, the permit is you're going to fill this out. What's your call sign? What's your N number on your aircraft? What's your insurance limitations? And other than that, that's pretty much all it's going to be, from my understanding. Certain rules to the city, but to open the door to an idea of a heliport that doesn't exist with no plans at all whatsoever, I think it's kind of irresponsible at this point, just because we think it's a great business opportunity.
Ms. Gary, for clarification, what is the issue if we have an ordinance that's in front of us for introduction and we have a separate one for helicopters that will allow us to engage the community? Helicopters have different scenarios with it. So.
Mayor, Council, no issue at all. It just won't come back in when the adoption of this ordinance. So it'll just be a separate process.
Yeah. And I understood it as such. I just wanted to make sure. I was expecting that we would then introduce this and then bring back changes for adoption. I would anticipate the introduction of this, the adoption of this, subsequently working towards engaging the aviation community and bringing back a recommendation one way or another to go forward. So that's how I would envision it to occur. Now, that's not in the motion. Would we need to amend this motion that says, as Vice Mayor Dolan had suggested, with direction to staff to engage the helicopter community for that.
That, I mean, that's your prerogative. I mean, you can definitely do an amendment to the motion to make that clear, or if you just want to give direction and we have consensus as far as that, that's perfectly fine as well. So if you want to vote on the motion and get past that and then give direction to staff moving forward, that's perfectly sufficient.
Yeah. Councilmember Moses?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say we could do that, or at the end of the meeting, we could, come to a consensus to put this on a future agenda item too.
Yeah, but we just
outside of this.
Yeah, I want to make sure that the council feels comfortable when we make this vote here based on if it's the will of this council to come back and learn more about helicopter operations. We need to know that now because that may influence your vote one way or another. So,
If I may.
yeah, Councilmember Lane.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor. I agree with moving forward with this suggested action. That doesn't stop us from having a totally separate ordinance for rotor aircraft landing outside the airport. I think that could have further discussion, and I myself like having a separate ordinance for helicopters as opposed to parachuting and the hot air ballooning. Having two separate ordinances because it's apples and oranges. We should have two separate ordinances.
Absolutely.
So we pass this, the people with the ballooning and the parachuting can move forward with their businesses, with their permit. And at the same time, staff can have conversation if we have an individual, which it appears that we do, that wants to have a commercial enterprise outside of the airport. He can work with the city and come up with some sort of a business plan, a location, show the proper documents, show how that's going to happen, where the heliport will be, what safety measures are taking, and all that. And then we can always come back to council and through the Airport Advisory Board with a totally separate ordinance. This is how we will handle helicopters off-site.
Mayor,
Yeah, Councilmember Campbell.
with all due respect, we don't even have a parachute business that exists right now, but what we do have is a helicopter business that does exist. I do agree with you, we can't do this all for one person, but this is the reason why we're here. And 5 months later, I absolutely loved your direction, Mayor, in regards to let's approve this as written with direction to add helicopter permit later if possible after further discussion. However you said it was beautiful.
So with that being said, Vice Mayor Dolan, would you be willing to amend your motion as presented here with giving direction to staff to do further discovery on helicopters in our community?
I guess that's a question for Kelly. Yeah, I'm okay to amend it to that, but it doesn't affect the writing we have right now for this ordinance. It's just directing, I'm also then asking, in addition, to direct staff to get us some information so we can work on a separate ordinance.
Correct, Councilmember
Okay.
Dolan. So you are formally now directing council by or directing staff by motion.
Perfect. I would love to do what I think I just said.
And then
So I will amend my motion to all of that.
Thank you. And Councilmember Lane, then do you still support that as a second?
Excuse me. No, I don't, because I think it doesn't need to be in the motion. I think we have a motion, our suggested action to go with the motion. And I think that the helicopter should be a totally separate discussion over this. So I'll withdraw my motion.
No, so this will be, so with what Vice Mayor Dolan has amended his motion to is this stands as a standalone. This introduction and subsequent adoption, if that's the will of the council. We just added a caveat to give staff formal direction to do further discovery on helicopters. It changes this ordinance not at all.
Okay. Okay, for that, I would, yes, I'll continue my second.
Okay, so we do have a motion and we have a second. Mr. Knutson, you're clear with that direction?
Perfect.
Okay, excellent. All right, we will now be ready to vote.
Mayor Sheehy, I just want to clarify that we are keeping the motion that is intact right now. Or are we adding the verbiage?
And we're adding the verbiage that Vice Mayor Dolan did to his amended motion to give staff formal direction to do additional discovery for helicopters in Lake Havasu City.
I can't remember all that.
Okay, I have it written down, so I'll get it for you.
Okay.
Yeah, it was on public record, so we have it.
And it was very eloquent, too.
So, yeah,
Make sure
we'll
that's
get
in.
you.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. We are ready to vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Great, thank you. All right, moving on to item 8.6, adopt resolution number 22-3549, establishing the Lake Havasu City Problem-Solving Courts. Judge Clowley.
Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity to address you folks tonight. It will only be 2 hours max, I promise. I'm just kidding. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you folks tonight about something that you folks know that I'm very passionate about, and that is problem-solving courts. You probably know the vernacular treatment courts. And problem-solving courts adds another layer onto that, in that sometimes people don't need treatment, they just need access to services. And so if we have what we're calling a problem-solving courts, then we can then add to that certain courts that just provide access to services. One of the things that also does for us is it allows us to be able to apply for grants through the problem-solving courts and then utilize those grants for the purposes that we need them. For example, right now, we have a grant that's for veteran-specific use only. And so if there were other people that needed the same kinds of services, we wouldn't be able to do that the way that we applied for the grant. But if we apply for a grant through the problem-solving courts and we say that we need anybody who cannot access counseling for alcohol could then have access to this grant, then we can get the grant approved through the problem-solving courts, and then whatever track that ends up being, whether it's the Veterans Court track or the Youth Court track, or maybe we have a dual diagnosis, meaning substance use and mental health, or maybe there's a homeless court or things like that. We can add those tracks to the umbrella of the problem-solving courts, and then we can utilize those fundings a little bit more specifically to that and allow it to help all of those who come into the legal system. We do have some slides, but unfortunately, it doesn't look like I know how to put them up there. So I will make this even shorter than it was going to be. As you folks know, one of the things that we've taken very seriously as a court system is reducing recidivism. That means that how many people come into the legal system and how often do they come into the legal system, and what are we doing to try and cut that number down? I can tell you that in regular court, the recidivism rate is anywhere from 80 to 95%. That means that if you come into the legal system and you have an underlying issue, there are those who come into the legal system and it's a traffic ticket or things like that, they're not coming back. But if you come into the legal system and you have an underlying issue, the court is really good at keeping you in the court system. That's been the history of the court systems lately. And we're really good at that. And so what we've tried to do is flip that and say, no, we don't want you to keep coming back. We want to address the issues that you have, resolve those so that you don't keep coming back. And that's the idea behind our problem-solving court. Just really quickly, some of the things that we're doing now. You folks know about the Veterans Treatment Court. We've had a lot of success with that, and you're well aware of that. You may not know that we've had a youth court since 2013 that has had a lot of success also. In fact, their recidivism rate is even under 10%, even as the Veterans Treatment Court recidivism rate is under 10%. We've had 208 successfully graduate. Again, the recidivism rate below 10% is unheard of. In regular courts, it's unheard of. And so we want to be able to utilize those same principles as we move forward with different types of treatment courts. Now, what we're doing right now is we're establishing the administrative scaffolding for what we would like to do in the future. I will tell you, and you folks are well aware of this and are addressing the issue, is that we don't have enough space to do what we would like to do. We don't have enough space to be able to expand to other problem-solving courts. That's something that as soon as we have that space, we can make those expansions, but we don't have that right now. So what we're trying to do is develop the structure and start looking for the grants that will allow us, when we do have that space, to be able to move forward right away and not take a year or 2 years to get everything in place. So this is really what we're aiming for. Jess, if you don't mind moving to the next slide. Thank you very much. So we have our municipal court, which is what everybody knows of as the court. And then we have the other track, which would be this problem-solving courts. That is, somebody has an issue that keeps them coming back into the legal system. We address that issue. Right now, we have a very successful Veterans Treatment Court and a very successful youth court. Community court addresses providing services, not necessarily treatment, but services, making sure that people know where those services are. And then, as I talked about, a co-occurring court is the one that I would really like to do next, which is addressing mental health and substance use issues. Because nowadays, you don't really have either or. Usually, if you have a mental health issue, you're masking it by substance use. If you have a substance use issue, at some point, it's going to turn into a mental health issue. And so we would really love to be able to address both of those issues at the same time. And in a mental health court, you don't necessarily have to test. But if you're not testing, then you're probably missing what's really going on with somebody who is struggling with mental health issues. Next slide. Again, what we have right now is our Veterans Treatment Court and our Youth Court. We don't, right now our Youth Court is going Mondays and Tuesdays, most Mondays and Tuesdays. Our Veterans Court is every other Friday. If we wanted to do anything else, we would have to request another courtroom for a period of time and don't have any control over that. And right now I can tell you that all of the courtrooms are busy all of the time. They're always being used right now. And so we really don't have space to be able to do some of the things that we would like to do. And the next one. And so what we'd like to do again is a community court and specifically a co-occurring court. That's really our goal here is to start addressing those issues that we know that are occurring, especially those with mental health needs. The worst thing that you can do with somebody who has mental health issues is put them in a jail cell. We can do a lot of other things that would be a lot more successful in helping them than putting them in a jail cell. And so this will be one of the things that allows us to do that. So with that, what we're asking the council to do now is see the vision and say, yes, this is where we want the court to go. We would like you folks to be able to, or start working on getting our problem-solving courts set up and looking for funding and those other things. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Judge. And just to give some background perspective, like Havasu City has been in a consolidated court situation for many, many years until 2019. Basically, a consolidated court is shared resources and shared spaces with the Justice Court, with our elected Justice of the Peace, our Superior Court, and then the Municipal Court operations. As the judge alluded to, we don't have enough space to operate all of those three areas. So at the request of the presiding judge at the time, we deconsolidated in place, which then immediately put the council on notice to find space. And we successfully did find that space at 92 Acoma, and we're in the process of going through design review for tenant improvements that are coming along nicely. That will give the judge the opportunity to have the space to fulfill the obligations of the court as it is today, and then also introduce these specialty courts, which the judge has brought to council many times, not in a formal situation like we are here this evening, but many times and gotten a consensus that that's the direction. I would just like to applaud you for your leadership on specialty courts. We have an award-winning youth court and an award-winning veterans treatment court. I would see nothing but the same with our community courts and the cohort courts. And what this does is it saves taxpayer money from folks that are continuing to have to go through the process. They get arrested, go to court, have the city prosecutor's office, whatever the consequence is. It would save us money just based on already proven like Havasu City recidivism rates on our current specialty courts. So you setting this foundation now is fantastic and will help as the council continues to make investments into the courthouse so we can get it up and operational. So thank you for your leadership on that. And I'm glad that you're bringing this forward so we can formally have this discussion to be able to move forward. Councilmember Lynn, did you have some questions or comments?
I'm super excited about this, especially having Christine here earlier and talking about what she wants to do at the Resource Center. I think, I don't want to say it's a concern, but I'm just curious of what the partnerships will look like if you have people coming in there with these mental health issues and substance abuse issues. And we don't have currently in Lake Havasu any in rehab centers. Like, are there partnerships outside of Lake Havasu that we would be able to work with that offer those, like those inpatient type services?
There are some in Bullhead, some in Kingman. There are some that we have utilized in the Valley, some that we've utilized in Flagstaff. There is a 48-hour bed or chair, they call it a chair, and a 72-hour chair that are available in Kingman. There are treatment facilities in Bullhead that are currently up and running. It's just a matter of getting everybody at the same table, kind of like we did with our Veterans Resource Team, where we got all of the people at the table, started talking about things, and realized that we have a lot of resources. We just didn't know it because we hadn't been discussing. And getting people to come to those meetings regularly has been really key. So we'll look for another lunch meeting to share lunch with everybody so that they'll come and keep coming.
So there's no problem with going outside of Lake Havasu to get
Not at all.
the grant? There's no...
Not at all,
Okay.
absolutely. And hopefully, you know, when they see the success that we have, maybe there's something that comes to town based on that, and we can explore those options also.
I love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and not that virtual is the be all and end all, but some of the virtual opportunities with behavioral health are more mainstream nowadays. Councilmember Campbell.
Mayor, this is for Mayor and Council. I spent 4 hours on a town hall today, and this was the main topic. And I would really like us to discuss further, working with the Tri-City Council, on how we can assist in funding each and every one of those amenities that you were talking about, support them, fund them, whatever we can do to expand upon what's already there. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, but they're there, and Lake Havasu City needs to support them, because we hope to recruit more through your services. And any of the public that's out there, I believe this Friday is another Veterans Court at 1:30. Am I correct?
So that has been changed.
Oh.
We've had a few people that had to be out for a little bit. And so
Okay.
we're having to change some things, but
All right.
it's usually
Well,
the second
if you
and
get a
fourth Fridays.
chance, please, anybody that's in the room or listening online, please participate, get involved. There's mentorship. I think our citizens more than ever need to be lifted up, moved forward, and you've already got the ball going. And if you say those communities are there, I want to get to know them, and I want to know what Lake Havasu City can do to help them.
Thank you.
All right, so this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this matter? Seeing none, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. So the action in front of us tonight is what we're doing is we are formally adopting by resolution that we are establishing the Lake Havasu City problem-solving court. So the vision that Judge Cawley has shared with all of us this evening and in subsequent meetings that we have had with him would now be formally adopted by resolution. And some of those services that Councilmember Lynn and Councilmember Campbell had mentioned would start to move in motion. But I do want to caution that this is all predicated on having enough space to do so. And so this is setting the foundation that we can get those resources together, but then we have to have a renewed commitment to getting the courthouse across the finish line. And then certainly the judge would be in front of us for necessary funding requests that would be tied to that, as I'm sure other departments will work in collaboration with the court system. So
And Mayor,
that's what we're
sorry,
doing.
really quickly.
Please, Judge.
That this will also allow us to actually start applying for grants. We would have to have a resolution from the council that allows us to do that. So this does open that door also.
So we're open to discussion or a possible motion?
Mayor,
Yeah, Councilmember Coe.
I'd like to make a motion.
Please.
And Judge, kudos for all of your leadership. You've done great things with our courts, and hopefully soon we can get you a bigger space so you can expand like you'd like. But tonight I'd like to make the motion. So I move to adopt resolution number 22-3549, establishing the Lake Havasu City problem-solving courts within the Lake Havasu City Municipal Court.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Koch and a second from Councilmember Campbell. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Judge. Yeah. All right, moving on to the next item on our agenda, we have item 8.7 is ratify approval of the software license renewal from Mythix Inc. for Oracle Fusion Systems, annual maintenance and support for Oracle Fusion and cloud services, and approve use of contingency funds. Ms. Olson.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item is regarding the approval of the software license renewal with Mythix Inc. You may recall that last year about this time, we terminated our contract with Cherry Road and we replaced them with Mythix Inc. to provide the software licensing subscription and maintenance and support services for our base products. We had a one-year agreement, so this is bringing back that base agreement to approve a multi-year agreement. And in addition to that, we are requesting contingency funds for an unknown item at the time the budget was adopted. When we first started the Oracle system, the number of licenses that we had was based upon how we thought the system would be set up and how it would work. Oracle then comes back after that period of time has passed, and they take a look at the actual number of licenses that we included in our original subscription and the number that we're actually using. It was determined that we're using more licenses than what we originally had in our base agreement. So we are amending that agreement or expanding the agreement to include the additional licensing that's needed. And again, the Oracle system is our base financial, payroll, human resources product. That is what we run our entire financial system on. So it is a primary function at the city. So it's very important that we have the proper licensing. So with that, we are requesting the ratification of the approval of the agreement, since it technically would have already begun before today, and then requesting contingency funds for the additional licenses that will be needed at just under $130,000. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Olson. Yeah, so each of our users has to have a license for each of the platforms in which they use. And as Ms. Olson mentioned, initially when you got the software, and we know it was a bumpy road. It wasn't a cherry road, it was a bumpy road to get us where we're at. We didn't know what those were during the current budget planning situation. We thought it would, of course, be the same. Why would it not? But when they come back and audit the users for the different modules or subscribers that we need to get in for, those that need to get in for procurement, those that need to get in and process payroll or process time cards, all of those, it was this audit that occurred that had to obviously be effective for January 1st start date. So with that being said, are there any additional questions that anyone has for Ms. Olson?
Are we approving the next 5 years too, or are we just approving this 1 year?
You are approving this and the next 4 years. So for a total of 5 years, yes.
So roughly. Okay.
Yeah, so it would be an annual expense
of
about $330,000, but they have capped their CPI increases each year at 2%, which is unheard of. That's the lowest CPI increase we've been able to obtain on any of our maintenance agreements.
And I'm seeing that the nominal increase every single year. However, I don't think it adds up to $337,000.
There are a variety. Some of them, it depends on each year. And it's really this first year, I looked at the math again too. The first year is going to be about $330,300.
The first year?
The first year. And then it'll go up from there. So it will be under the $337,000 amount.
Okay. Are we accomplishing what we're setting out to accomplish? I know we had a real rough time there for a little bit. Are we making headway on some of getting our computers to talk to each other kind of deal?
Yeah, we are making headway. We are definitely becoming more proficient with the modules that we have. We do have modules that have still not been implemented, so we'll be coming back to council with permission to proceed with some of those, and my next item is going to be one of those. But yeah, we are making good progress, and so far we're receiving good maintenance and support from Mythics.
And this is something you foresee us using every single year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is our full accounting system. This is like if you use QuickBooks or if you use Peachtree or we use Oracle. Like there's no going back now. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments for Ms. Olson before we open the public hearing? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this matter? All right, sir?
James Maniaci again. Do you have the estimates on what years 2 through 5 would be?
Yes, thank you for the question. I believe Ms. Olson can provide that information.
Yes, we have the totals. I have them broken out by the base and the additional expansion numbers. So the first year is going to be the 330,000 approximately, and then it'll increase by 2%, up to 2% each year thereafter. So it'll go up by around $66,000.
By year 5.
Yeah.
Would anyone else like to address the council on this matter? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for discussion or possible motion.
Mayor?
Yeah, Councilmember Moses.
I move to ratify the renewal of the software maintenance and support and approve the purchase of software license from Mythics Inc. for Oracle Fusion System and cloud services for the next 5 years in the amount of $337,000 plus applicable taxes. Authorize the use of $129,688.98 plus applicable taxes and contingency funds, and authorize city staff to execute appropriate documents and annual options to renew.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Moses, a second from Vice Mayor Dolan. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. All right, item 8.8 is approve the statement of work with Camptra Technologies LLC for the implementation and redesign of enterprise resource planning accounts receivable for Oracle Cloud Suite. Ms. Olson.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is part of the enhanced services that we receive related to Oracle. It is above the base contract support and maintenance, and this involves additional technical assistance in implementing the accounts receivable module for the cloud suite. So we have accounts receivable, so all of the bills that we send out for airport hangars and such, those miscellaneous accounts receivable items, that module still needs to be set up. It needs to be configured, and then it will need to interface with the Oracle financial platform for the general ledger. This contract is for them to provide that service so that we can get it fully implemented. And that cost is estimated to be $75,000. And I'll happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Olson. So at the conclusion of this contract, we'll be fully able to utilize the receivable module interfaced with Oracle in a seamless operation.
That's correct.
Excellent.
Oh, exciting.
All right, any questions on this item for Ms. Olson? All right, this is also a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council for discussion or motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Councilmember Lane?
I move to approve the statement of work with Camptra Technologies LLC in an amount not to exceed $75,000.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Lane, a second from Councilmember Moses. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we are ready to vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Olson. All right, item 8.9 is approved task order agreement number 2 to the Engineering Master Professional Services Agreement with Jacobs Engineering Group, Inc. for the Vados Injection Well Design and Expansion Program. Ms. Roche.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and City Council members. The item before you tonight is to award task order agreement number 2 to the Engineering Master Professional Services Agreement with Jacobs Engineering Group for the Vados Well Design and Expansion Program. The city currently operates a Vados zone injection well field around the city's north wastewater treatment plant located on Wayland Drive. These wells are a significant part of the city's treated effluent disposal system. The red dots, or actually hot pink dots in this photo, represent existing Vados wells, and the black dots represent potential sites for new Vados wells. Potential new Vados wells. Just some background regarding effluent. The city wastewater treatment plants generate approximately 4 million gallons of effluent per day. As said previously, the VADOS injection wells are a significant component of the effluent disposal system. As there are currently 7 existing VADOS wells, some of which have lost capacity over time due to the water column mounding in the well area. Specifically, the VADOS well number 4 is no longer accepting any effluent. In addition to the existing wells being saturated, the Refuge Golf Course use of effluent for irrigation has decreased significantly, and it is unknown if that will change in the future. The objective of this project is to address the critical nature of the current VADOS well-filled operations, begin the process of upgrading and expanding the current well field to address the city's effluent disposal needs, and design and construct well number 8 to be brought online as soon as possible to provide additional effluent capacity. Therefore, the scope of this project will include the following: review existing VADOS well-filled data, analyze the VADOS well unsaturated flow, review existing well number 4 operations, that's the well that is no longer accepting effluent, choose a site for the future well number 8, design well number 8 and prepare the bid package for construction, provide construction project services, professional services during construction, and complete the conceptual design of the VADOS well-filled modifications and expansion program. So summarizing the agreement with Jacobs Engineering Group, it would provide professional services with a total contract duration time of approximately 18 months. That will include the construction of well number 8, programmed for the fiscal year 23, and that will be built in 2 phases. Phase 1 will consist of the well drilling and the casing installation. And then after testing, they'll come back and include the installation of the well pump, electrical controls, and piping. It will also include the well expansion program and conceptual design, which is also scheduled to be completed in the spring of 2023. So all phases of this project will be completed by the end of fiscal year 22. The total fee for both the well expansion program and well number 8 design is $359,876 to be funded by the CIP wastewater fund. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, staff is available to answer questions.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Roche. Are there any questions of council? I just had one quick one on the side. On the slide that you showed that shows the well sites and the black dots, it said those are permitted wells. Do we have permits on all of those potential well sites?
That is part of the evaluation that they'll be performing. There is wells that were identified previously in a previous permit, so they'll be researching that to see if those permits are still good, if they'll need to go back and amend those permits. But yes, there are some permits in place. There's questions on if those can be used for a modified plan.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a significant number of those. So yeah, that's great.
And for clarification, who permits those wells?
I believe the governing agency would be ADEQ. Maybe
ADEQ.
Greg could confirm?
Yes.
Yes, he's shaking his head, yes.
I have a quick question. When and if the refuge were to come back up online and start watering their grass again, this is still needed for the levels we're at right now, even if they do come back with the full golf course?
It is still needed due to the amount of effluent that we have. Also, it's the unknown whether we enter a contract again with the refuge, if that will be continuous, because that could end at any time, such as what has happened in the past.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes. We have a lot of excess water being dumped on the north side of town, and I was wondering, is this something that we could possibly redirect some of that water into these wells? The water that we're pumping, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that.
Thank you.
I'll defer to Greg. Greg looks like he's ready to
If I could
answer.
interrupt. Councilmember Campbell,
yes.
Mayor and Council, that's a valid question. However, the water that we're flushing is clean water. The water that we're injecting is treated dirty water. and we cannot connect those two systems because of potential for cross-contamination. And yeah, and I can tell you that we have gotten creative with some valving and added some extra piping to recirculate that water within our own system. So since you found out about that, and today we are we are flushing approximately half of what we used to be flushing. And in addition to that, I initiated some conversations with the Epcor Water Company to see if we could sell some water to them through a meter to turn that water over in that large tank on the north end of town, and they're excited to explore that option.
Well, thank you very much for that. I love all those options moving forward so that we don't have to be doing what we've been doing for years. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so just for clarification, the item in front of us now is wastewater, so that there's a separate issue. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I just didn't want to confuse for folks that didn't know about the water cycling that.
But our effluent water it's pretty bad. You know, most of the people that I talk to say that the effluent that we're getting out, the refuge and stuff, is pretty rough. So I was just wondering, I can understand what you're going to do with the wastewater here in the injection wells for sure, but I didn't know if we could help dilute it down. But I understand cross-contamination, though.
All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this matter? Yeah, please just make your way to the podium and state your name for the record.
My name's Colin Moore, council, public. I'm totally ignorant in the technology here, but why can't number 4 be re-drilled or cleaned out?
Yeah, great question. And that's Ms. Roche in her presentation went through, and that's what they're going to identify as part of this study. I don't know if you can elaborate on that comment or.
That is correct. The well number 4 is currently experiencing what they call mounding, so it is saturated at this time and cannot take any more effluent. But they are going to look at well number 4 and what is causing that, and make some recommendations as far as their expansion program.
Yeah, thank you. Would anyone else like to address the city council on this matter? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for any additional discussion or possible motion.
Mr. Mayor, motion.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Councilmember Lane.
I move to approve the task order agreement number 2 to the engineering master professional services agreement with Jacobs Engineering Group, Inc. for the Vados injection well design and expansion program in the amount of $359,876.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Lane and a second from Councilmember Koch. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Roche. All right, item 8.10 is award bid for the fiscal year 2021-22 chip seal program to Cactus Asphalt. Mr. Frosley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and good evening again. As you just stated, this is our annual chip seal program. We received 5 bids this year, ranging from $1.3 million to $1.6 million. And the difference between the first bid and the second bid is only $26,000. So we're very confident in the bids. And the low bid is actually Cactus Asphalt. We have lots of experience with them and have been happy with them in the past. You can see in the council communique, some of the prices are going up. This year's per square yard cost is 7 cents more than it was last year. But the big number is it's actually 29 cents more than it was 2 years ago. So we're experiencing some inflation just like every other municipality in the country. To give you a size of scale, that the impact of that 29 cents, for this same project to do that 2 years ago would have been $153,164 less than it is today. So same amount of streets, $150,000 more in just 2 years. So we plan on starting in late March, early April. It usually lasts between 4 to 5 weeks. We're recommending approval of the base bid, alternates 1 and 2. You may have noticed we had the budget to do alternates 3 and 4 as well. However, we noticed that we've got some water main work scheduled next year, so we're going to hold off on the chip seal till after we do the underground work. So that's all I have. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Frosley. Just to give us some clarification, our goal in a year is to hit about 10% of our roadways with some sort of treatment, whether it's chip seal, oil, overlay, fog seal, whatever it might be, 10% of our roadways. Last year, we were able to do a significant amount larger than that. With this chip seal program, in addition to some fog sealing programs, we'll be able to do about 12% or so of our roadways. But that way we can touch each roadway every 10 years with some sort of a treatment that makes sense for that particular roadway. So this year, people have heard me say this before. Before I was elected, I hated chip seal, just like all of you hate chip seal too. But it's really an affordable way for us to do our roadway maintenance and be able to keep the integrity of the roadways up, all the while providing good services to our citizens at the best price available. So that's kind of some of the context of where we come from. If you're interested in knowing what roads are going to get chip sealed, you can go to our city website, and it's all listed from roadway intersection to roadway intersection on what will happen. Do any members of the council have any questions or comments before we open the public hearing?
Mr. Mayor, I have one. So do we keep an eye on them while they're working? I know in the past they've missed some spots or they double and then they just go right over it. And then so they're basically creating speed bumps in the road and such like that. How do we get ahead of that and keep an eye on that?
It's a valid point, and it's also something I've noticed since I took over as Public Works Director. So each year we do have staff out there. Each year I'm implementing something additional as far as inspections and trying to get that roller to slow down a little bit because that's what creates that ripple effect. But if we're not out there watching, to your point, time is money for those guys. So it's controlled chaos, and I don't like it.
And then one other question, would we be able to put something on our Facebook page or something like that, letting them know which roads and kind of getting an update on it? All of a sudden you turn left on Acoma and you're, so it's nice to kind of know and avoid those roads, I think.
Sure. Agreed. Chip seal kind of moves, through the town, so traffic control probably isn't as robust as it should be. And that's another one of those things that we're trying to make improvements on. But I think utilizing Facebook is a great idea. We haven't in the past, and I know Steve and his guys are beefing that up a little bit. So we're happy to participate in that.
Okay. Like I said, even if it's just the main roads, all the little ones, but yeah, some of the main avenues and boulevards, I think people might appreciate a heads up and not bring their boat or motor home and all that through there. So.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, you bring up a great point because of the timing. We always, it happens right in the spring when spring boating season starts. But that happens to be the best time to apply it. I don't know, Mr. Frosley, if you want to talk a little bit about the application of it, why the timing based on weather?
Yeah, it's based on temperatures and the oil. And if we do it when it's too hot, the oil doesn't break down and it never hardens, and we would never be able to get traffic on it. So the sweet spot for temperature is the March, April, which is the sweet spot in temperature for everybody. So,
When conversely, could we look at the fall? A better time in the fall?
Well, if the fall was a better time, that's when we would do it. I don't have the details as to why, but if it worked better in the fall, that's when we would schedule it.
Yeah.
For this particular one, the fall would be a new fiscal year, so the money's are only budgeted for this year for this particular program.
Get the paperwork in order.
All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for discussion or possible motion.
Mayor, motion.
Yeah, Councilmember Campbell.
I move to award the bid for chip seal program base bid alternate 1 and 2 for fiscal year 2021 through 22 chip seal program to Cactus Asphalt for the amount of $1,128,126.48.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Campbell, a second from Vice Mayor Dolan. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you.
And chips are ready to go.
All right, item 9 is current events. Are there any council committee reports?
I did.
Yeah, Councilmember Moses?
Yeah, we've actually had a pretty busy month. Go Lake Havasu is excited, along with the Hospitality Association, excited for the Top Chef competition coming up on March 31st. We also talked about our spring break campaign, how we're continuing our move from college to more of a family and couples-oriented spring break. And we're really excited. We got Arizona Department of Tourism gave us a grant, a marketing grant to do an expansion to both the San Francisco and Chicago markets. So that'll be a nice little boost to try and get new people to Lake Havasu. Met with the Main Street Association, and they are starting up their membership. They were thankful that the city moved the repavement of McCulloch to better suit, a better time for them. So they were very thankful for that. And then I asked them for a list of priorities of what they'd like to see with the downtown catalyst with the mall. Sounds like somebody might want to see a heliport there too, but but I asked them for their list of priorities to talk to their members and engage that. So I don't know if they're coming to the meetings at Parks and Rec or not, but I asked them to give us a good list. And then also a Hospitality Association we met, and I'm really excited about this. I think this is great news, but they're starting an apprenticeship program, partnering with Arizona Works and the MCC. I think that'll help a lot of industries start getting some workers and start a pathway for workers to, have a career. So very excited about that.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Moses. And just a clarification on the increase in the target cities of San Francisco and was it Chicago? Yeah, that is the expansion of AOT's Arizona target cities. So the grant had to go to the target cities within the state of Arizona based on AOT's initiatives, and it's all done on direct flights and direct flight travel. So I've had some citizens ask me, well, why would they have picked those two cities? That's to correspond with what Arizona Office of Tourism, otherwise known as AOT, is already doing. So just to provide some of that clarification of why those cities mean the impact. The other cities are Dallas, LA, and some of those other major markets that we go to. So thank you for the report.
No, thank you.
Any other council committee reports? All right, future meetings. Future meetings are listed on the agenda. Our next regular meeting is on Tuesday, February 8th, 2022 at 6 p.m. And then on February 22nd, 2022 at 6 p.m. will be another regular meeting. Item 11, any future discussion items?
Mayor?
Yeah, Councilmember Lynn?
Yes, I was hoping that we could have a discussion on the ARPA money and how the city's planning on using that $8 million. I know the county's having those discussions right now, and I was hoping we could have a discussion here in the city with that too.
I would like, can I?
We actually would need a second on Councilmember Lynn's request. So just to give some, real quick, just to give you a little bit of perspective on that is we're still waiting on some of the direction from Department of Treasury on what those dollars can actually be used for. So if I may, Councilmember Lynn, can we have a little bit of time to get some additional clarification? The county has a different pots of money based on different government. Not looking for a lot of time, but we just need a little bit more clarity so that we can have a full discussion of the council, knowing what the funds truly could be used for. Would that be acceptable to you?
I thought I got that from the city manager. I had asked for that. I thought he gave me that.
The full, Mr. Knudsen, do you have the full?
Yeah, it's about 450 pages. It was just released.
I didn't read it. That's why I was asking.
Oh, yeah, so we still are working our way through it. Yeah.
This is kind of why I wanted to have that conversation, because when I asked him for it and it came back, I went, oh, that's a lot to read. Yeah. So maybe let staff read that and condense it for us. Yeah. But that's why I'm asking at this time.
As long as can you give us a little bit of time? I mean, so if we have a motion in a second, as long as that time's been
what's a little bit of time?
A month or two to at least have some discussion. And if we can't meet that deadline, then the city manager can give a report and we can give further direction to staff. I would hate to have a discussion when we don't have all of the facts. And these dollars are
2 months is kind of pushing it.
400 pages is a lot of pages of DC writing. Yeah, it's pretty
Mayor,
boring.
Are we in discussion?
No, we're just need to see if she's willing to do that for your second, and then are you going to second her item?
Yes.
Okay. So do we have clarifications? We can work offline on some of the timing and what that looks like. And Councilmember Campbell?
Please.
Yes.
I agree with her. I did actually start to go through a lot of the 400 pages, obviously I would. And what I found out even today with the 4-hour town hall meeting that I went to, I also agree that I would like to see what the money is being used for now.
Councilmember Campbell, we just
we
can't get
can't?
into discussion so we already have a motion.
Can we give direction of like how we can
they'll bring it back to us.
So I can't give direction to the staff of what we'd like you to discuss, or you're just gonna, how does this work?
Well, that wasn't so Councilmember Lynn's motion is to come back with what the ARPA dollars can be used for and have a discussion of the council of what we would like to do.
At that time, I will tell you what I'm concerned about.
Through other channels. We just can't have a conversation right now. It's not on the agenda to have a conversation in that detail.
That's fine.
So at that time, we will know what the stuff is, and then we'll be able to address it.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any additional discussion items? Yeah. All right. Seeing no other discussion items, we have, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All right. We have a motion and a second. Thank you for being here. Be kind, and we'll see you next time.